Inserting text into your drawing in AutoCAD is relatively straightforward. There are two tools and they both live on the annotation panel on the Home tab. There is a multi-line text tool and a single line text tool. I'm going to show you the single line text tool first because that is the most basic. To use this, we just left click where we want to insert our text and then we specify a height, which we can either type in or if we pull down we can just click to select that height. The second thing it asks you for is the rotation angle of the text. So if you want to go in straight across your page, then you need to select 0 degrees. We could either press enter here, or again, we can click for the angle. And in AutoCAD, remember 0 degrees is at 3 o'clock. And then we can add in our text. To finish, we just click anywhere off of the text and press escape. If we want to edit that text once it's been created, we can double click on it and we can make any amendments that we wish. And then to finish, click outside of the text and press escape one more time. We can do anything that we want with this text in the way of modifying it, just as we can any other object. So we can move it, we can copy selection, we can also choose to rotate it. So we could do anything that we can do with any ordinary object. But what you can't do is you can't change the size of this font once you've created it. If you see, you can highlight all the text, but everything in terms of being able to change it is locked out. The only way of changing the size of this text is to use the scale tool. A more comprehensive way of inserting text in AutoCAD is to use the Multiline text tool. That's the most used tool for inserting text in AutoCAD. This time what happens is we draw a text box and then we can write our text directly into there. We can also do a lot more with this tool, so you can see that we've now got a new text editor ribbon menu and we can do things such as paragraph indentation, line spacing, bullets and numbering, and justification and all that sort of stuff. So it's really a lot more useful tool to be using. We can also change the size of the text, so you can see that if we highlight it, we can change that number there and change the text accordingly. We also have this little diamond on the end of the text box and we can change the size of that text box and that adjusts the text wrapping. What you'll want to get into the habit of doing is just closing this down a little bit just before you exit, because if you leave this really wide, what happens is that you end up with all that space as a selection rather than just the actual text, and so it becomes a little bit more difficult to use afterwards. So once we're finished, we can just click the close text editor and there it is, it's done. To edit that text, we can just double click and we can make any changes that we need to. To finish, we can just click outside of the text box, or we could use the cross on the ribbon menu once more. Now it's very common to use text styles in AutoCAD. These are objects that basically save the font and the size in a style. Now we can create a number of these and then we can standardize our work and the look of our drawings. In order to create a text style, what you need to do is come down to the annotation drop down on the panel, and here you can see we have 4 drop downs and 4 buttons, and the top one is for text styles. So you can see that the text style that I've been using so far is called standard, and I can choose, there's only 2 in here at the moment, one called annotative and one called standard, and I can choose which style I'm going to be using. Very similar to the drop down for fonts in Word. To create a new text style, what we need to do is click on the A with a paintbrush, and that opens up a text style manager dialog box and allows us to set some parameters for a text style. Now because I've been using standard for this text here, you can see that the text height is set to 0, and that's why I was allowed to change the text height to any text height that I wanted on the annotate bar before. But as I say, it's more common to use these text styles and set the font height inside of them. So I'm going to show you how to do that now. I'm going to create a new one, and it's very useful to name these something that's quite informative, so that you understand what it is that you've created. So I always pick the font name first and then the size. So I'm going to create one called Arial 20. I'm going to click OK, and that is now created over here. I'm going to make sure that the font name is Arial. I'm going to set the height to 20. And that's all I need to do to create a text style. Click Apply. Now I'm going to click Set Current, and what that does is it just makes sure that is going to be the current text style that is now set to be used, and click Closed. And just to prove that that set current worked, you can now see that the Arial 20 is set up here, it's selected. So that's what that set current button does. It saves you having to come in here and just click on that one to select it afterwards. Now I can just use my multiline text tool, and you can see that that is now set over here, look, to Arial 20. So it's going to be 20 millimeters high. And there we go. Let's create a couple more text styles then. So we're going to go to this drop down and click on the A with a paintbrush, and then we're going to click New, and we're going to create one called Arial 200. Click OK, set the height to 200, the font name is Arial. Great, click Apply and click New. Let's create one called Arial 100. Click OK, set the height to 100. Click Apply, click New, and let's create one called Arial 50. Click OK, set the height to 50, click Apply and Close. Now I'm going to use the Arial 200, so I need to come up here, set this to Arial 200, and now I can create some text that is going to be that size, Arial 200. Widen this up slightly and click Close. And that is how you use text styles. So now that you know how to create text styles, there are a few shortcuts that are worth noting. When we come to the drop down to select our created text style, you can see there's a button at the bottom of the panel that will allow us to get straight into the text style manager. Likewise, on the Annotate tab, if we click on the Expand button on the bottom of the panel, this will take us directly to the text style manager too. You can also see that when we create a new text style, so I'll create one here called Arial 300, once it's created, this is automatically set as the current text style, so there's no need to click the Set Current button.